allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to open a public hearing on the pre-application for the lot line modification for the Gretchen Topping and Corner House at Cybertonic LLC. Rich Warren or Tony Casper is going to present first. Who wants it?
Tony,
That's not for pre-app, so.
yeah, let Tony go.
All right, well, Anthony Pasca, I'm here representing sort of co-applicants. You may remember this going way back. This application has been waiting around for town approval for a while. And a couple months ago, we did get the town's approval on the acquisition of development rights for all of the Topping farm properties that covers 3 different ownership groups. And this is one piece of that where the corner house is going to be set apart on its own building lot so that the rest of the property can be development rights can be taken off, and it can then be merged with some of the other Topping farm properties. That's the long plan. But the way the lot lines were existing, it made no sense. You can see the sort of box in the middle, right, which really doesn't cover the house lot. So essentially that box is being shifted over to cover the house lot, and the rest of the property will be preserved. So
Great.
I think everybody, this is one of those applications where the village has been supportive of the concept, as long as we can get the town to go along with the development right transfer. And just so you know, the for this lot and for the Topping Farm LP lots, the covenants that are going to be put in place are going to be the most restrictive covenants that include scenic vistas, no buildings on them. It goes beyond the typical ag easement. It's an overly restricted ag easement, and that's part of what the family wants. So everybody wants to preserve those vistas.
No,
So we're ready to go.
It's great to see that happen. I know many years ago there were some other proposals kicked around which the board never wanted to take up on because it would change the character of that area, and this preserves it, which is fantastic. And it's nice to see that the family could work together eventually and come up with a plan that kept everyone happy and worked for the community too.
It's sort of a win-win-win because the family had to give up something. This is going to be a big bargain sale to the town for the development rights, and the town's spending $10 million on these development rights, which isn't nothing. I mean, it's expensive, obviously, it's agaponic, and so that's the compromise that was worked out. So everybody's happy.
Well, the village is happy that the Toppings were finally able to pull this off. It's great.
It was worth the wait.
Yeah.
And today of all days, they're doing one of their horse shows there. And all the community is like, so it's kind of interesting that after all this time, because Lee was originally on the board when we started discussing everything, and
Here they come.
oh, here they come now, the Toppings, and they're leaving the horse show early. That's too bad. But anyway, it's today of all days, it's kind of a celebration day, just normally they have in the summer. So.
You missed it all.
Your ears are burning though.
Let's get started over.
Tony did a great job.
Yeah, Rich Warren, do you have something to add?
Yeah, so I would suggest, Bill, that you see if there's any other public comment, close the public hearing, and then we would go through my pre-application report.
Okay. Do we have a public who would like to address this? Anyone from the
The
public?
only thing I would say is it's commendable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's a great thing to have pulled off. The board have input on this comment?
Wonderful. I've been waiting that as we've been processing for a long time. This is just awesome.
We're talking about you guys.
You guys, it's making the smiles pop off our faces. Thank you.
Thank you. Very great.
So I'm going to close the public hearing. We have a resolution before us. The first part, I'm going to deem that read.
But before you do that, Bill, to close the public hearing, then we'll go through the pre-application report.
Rich,
Oh.
he's following my instructions because Tony Tohill did the resolution that closes the public hearing and then adopts the pre-app. So you can do just a resolution to close the public hearing.
Yeah, do that first. Do that first.
Has to be
Okay.
done first.
Yeah.
So just do a simple resolution.
This,
Second. I heard Bill make that motion.
Yes.
Very good.
Very
I
seconded it.
understood the footwork.
Aye, everybody. Aye.
Okay, so that's.
okay,
We're legal now.
closed, so
great.
it's yours.
So pursuant to section 190-10C of the village's subdivision regulations, the Board of Trustees are required to prepare a pre-application report for a pre-application. So that's really, we had to close the public hearing first in order to prepare the pre-application report. In this instance, because this application has been around since 2020 or so, and we've had a number of meetings about it, and no one has ever spoke in opposition to it. I prepared the pre-application report, which you all have, the 6 or 7 page document, with the expectation there wouldn't be any adverse public comment, which you'll see on page 2 of this. It talks about public comment, the hearing comments. Back early on in the discussion, there was a work session on the part of the trustees with this that actually looked to have 4 specific conditions for this, which Tony had mentioned at the podium that are going to be within the easement. On parcel B, which would become open space, there'll be no residential or accessory structures permitted. The use of parcel B would be restricted to either horse farm or row crop farming, not only trees, no tree farms, orchards, nurseries, greenhouses would be permitted. C, there'll be no vegetated screening installed along the boundaries of parcel B that would impede public views. Whatever scenic easement, conservation easement put on the property, that the village would need to have co-enforcement powers. So those were comments that this Board of Trustees back in 2022, I think it was, actually made relative to this. So the document you have before you goes through the review standards. I'm not going to go through those in detail. There's some findings and recommendations. These are your findings. So I circulated this to the board, I guess about a month ago, so you could all take a look at it and see if you had any comments relative to it. I got one comment back about a typo that I had missed, that I referenced Sag Harbor instead of Sagaponack. Shame on me. In terms of the finding and recommendations, start on page 3. The board finds that the lot line modifications proposed is logical from an overall planning perspective. On page 4, number 2, the proposed lot line and resultant sale of development rights of the town of Southampton furthers the objectives of the village of Sagaponack for the preservation of this important agricultural resource. And I'm going through this quickly. There's much more narrative in the report. Number 3, the applicant has adequately demonstrated the satisfaction of the village attorney that the 2 lots are single and separate. 4, the shifting of the building envelope over top the existing improvements removes potential for construction within the FEMA floodplain. Number 5, the resulting residentially improved property would be more conforming in size, 43,560 square feet, than the current vacant unimproved lot, which is 21,260 square feet. Number 6, the approval of this plan would preserve agricultural uses as well as open space vistas deemed important to maintain the character of the village of Sagaponack. So the long and short of it is, this is your report. These would be your findings that you would make. If the board adopts this report, the next step would be the applicant to provide a health department approval, submit a final plat to the village. I would recommend, and I believe Tony recommends it as well, Tony Tohill recommends, that you waive a public hearing on the final. We've had a number of meetings and hearings on this matter already. No one has ever spoken. So you could, want to receive a final plat submission and deem it complete, you could then waive a public hearing and move towards a final resolution towards the approval of this. During the course of time when this application was in, there was a change in the secret designation for this property. And this now is considered a type 2 action, so no further secret review is required for it. So all of that is contained in this report. And what I would suggest the board to do is the board would adopt this report, then conclude the remainder of Tony's resolution, give this report to the applicant, and then they could come forward with their final plat submission, and we could deem it complete, move towards a final approval, and this one would be done.
Great.
Perfect.
I don't know, is it now an okay time for me to raise one issue with just one of the line items in this report? Has to do with getting the health department approval, whether it's before or after. I don't know if it needs to be technically changed in the report, but there's a time sensitivity to getting this all wrapped up within the fiscal year. Tax reasons, the town's got $10 million that's sort of set aside for this purchase. And with lot line modifications, I agree that 95% of the time, 99% of the time, it's better to get health department approval before it's actually finalized, because it avoids problems down the road. But the owners are aware of the fact that they won't be eligible to get a building permit until the health department piece of it's done. We would just ask that requirement be allowed to post date the formal lot line modification, so that we can wrap up the process with the town. Because the town won't do the development right purchase until the lot line modification is done. And it's just a lot of dominoes that have to fall. So if we get stuck in the health department for 6 months, which we probably will, that pushes this into 2022.
Okay.
So Bill, my recommendation would be that you could adopt the report as is, because it's just simply a report. It's an advisory report to the applicant of where this village is looking to go. They've agreed to the conditions of the, in terms of the easements. And when they file their final plat, your submission requirements under section 190-19, A2 says the final plat signed and approved by the Suffolk County Department of Health Services. So I think what they would do is they would submit their final plat with a request for a waiver of that provision. And then at that point in time, you can deal with that.
Okay.
Right.
Works for us.
Yes.
Okay with that?
So, and I would think that we'd probably have to have a discussion with the village attorney about that. Maybe the village could then issue a conditional final approval, subject to receipt of a copy of that, because you'd have to file this map in the county clerk's office, and you won't be able to do that without having a health department approval for the modification of lot lines.
Right.
So,
Well, it depends. One of the things that we've done is with lot line modifications is filing the map in the miscellaneous map section as opposed to the formal subdivision map section.
okay,
If
well,
it's allowed, if the board allows it to be filed in the miscellaneous map section, then we can do that without a health department stamp on it.
I'm okay with that, as long as it's a filed map. So I think that miscellaneous section in the county clerk's office is fine.
It still counts
Yep.
as a record map. Yep.
okay,
And we'll make a request for a waiver, but understanding that it's a condition of there can be no building permits issued for the corner house lot until the health department approval has been completed.
That's fine.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
Good. Okay. Sounds good to me.
I think now you would adopt the remainder of Tony Tohill's resolution.
Okay, great. Thanks for the help. Resolve the board hereby adopts the pre-application report of Richard E. Warren in text annexed and dated August 9th, 2023, and is further resolved the board subject to timely filing of final plat and satisfaction of all local regulatory requirements hereby continues this matter on the board's agenda for September 13th, 2023 at 3 p.m. and is further resolved the public hearing for September 13th is hereby waived. Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Richard.
My pleasure.
affidavit of posting and the affidavit of, just posting, sorry, email I received for the public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next matter up is 194 Erica's. I know. No, actually, it's 351 Bridge Lane LLC. We're still waiting for more information. And I make a motion to adjourn that to September 13th. All in favor? Thank you. Now, 194 Erica's Lane, LLC. I think we need a report from our engineer, Kevin Peterman. Is he on Zoom somewhere?
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yes, I am here, if you guys can hear me.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Kevin Peterman from LKMA as the village consulting engineer. On 194 Erica's, the Rayner Group submitted revised drawings and they addressed all of our comments. So we have no further comments at this time.
So I guess we're in a position to make a resolution to adopt, approve the site plan. The first part of it, rather lengthy, I'll deem that read. The last part, now therefore upon due deliberation hearing is resolved and found by the planning board that this application for the regrading of a portion of the property and certain proposed accessory structures is found to be consistent with the provisions of section 245-67 and 245-66 of the code, and that the site plan application is approved as set forth in the existing conditions and demolition plan prepared by the Rayner Group and LSPLCC dated May 11, 2023. Site plan was prepared by the Rayner Group, last updated and dated June 28th of 2023. The site plan and planting plan prepared by the Hollinger Design Landscape Architects dated May 12th, 2023. And the architectural floor plans and elevations prepared by Stephen Lang and Associates dated May 11th, 2023. And that the work proposed is consistent with the category of 16 NYC RR Part 617.5 C12, which defines the proposed improvements as being within the type 2 action classification under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. I make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
My pleasure.
Okay, the site plan application of 543 Spud LLC. That's 543 Daniels Lane. Rich, I guess you're up next.
Sure. So the applicant submitted a set of revised plans, which addressed the report that my office had prepared, as well as that Kevin Peterman had prepared relative to the site. What they did was they readjusted the basement plan. As you remember, this is a house that has a basement that goes beyond the line of the first floor of the house. So they adjusted the basement plan so that they could move the garage structure that at that point in time was an accessory building. It's now sitting over top of the basement, closer to the home, and now would comply with the setbacks, because the original plan wasn't complying with the required setbacks of the village. So my report dated August 1st, the first 2 pages of it, for the most part, really just define.
Excuse me, Rich,
Yes,
do you want me to display anything while you're going through your report?
you could put up the survey, I guess, that shows the proposal.
Okay.
So the first 2 pages of my report really just redefine what they've done with the project. I tried to make sure that we could understand where those changes were. So the first 2 pages of my report include that, discusses the changes in the square footage, the changes in the location of structures, and so now what is being proposed in terms of drainage and the geothermal wells that are underneath the tennis court, et cetera. I included in here the revised cut and fill calculations that the Rayner Group had provided. So they now, with this plan proposed, they have a net export of fill from the site of 2,823 cubic yards. That's mostly from the excavation of the basement of the house, which on this drawing, you can see it's a red dashed line that goes outside the boundaries of the yellow highlighted structure. So it's not the building envelope, but there's a red dashed line that goes around the edge of the swimming pool and the spa, goes between the tennis court and the house, and then back to the garage and back. So they moved the garage over, they put it on top of the basement. It's now part of the residence, but the garage itself, the space in the garage, the square footage of the garage is not counted towards gross floor area. I confirmed that with John Woodsma. So they now have complied with the setback, the total required setback from both sides of the property line, as well as the setback for structures from one side. They also provide additional information in the plans, the engineering plans, about the tennis court design and site grading. Originally, it was hard to tell from the plans with the spot elevations that were proposed whether or not the tennis court, which is required to be set back 30 feet if it's sunken 4 feet into grade, or 45 feet, 150% of the setback if it's at grade. And it looked like in the original plans, it wasn't meeting the 4-foot depth requirement. They did provide additional grading information with some spot elevations to show that the tennis court would comply with the 4-foot sinking. So it now is able to meet the 30-foot required setback, which it does. So there's a cross section of the tennis court provided by Hollander Design. And then there's also information provided by the Rayner Group on that. The original plan did not have rear yard lot coverage on it. So now we have that information, and it shows that the structure is compliant with the total required rear yard lot coverage. So there's no issue with that. I had, between the review of the original application and the resubmission, because this was such an extensive project, one thing that I had missed in the original application was actually inquiring whether or not there was going to be any kind of dewatering that would be required for the installation of this basement that's going to be excavated underneath this house. So I sent an email to the attorney representing the applicant, John Bennett, with the request. I copied the village on that and said that if there is dewatering, please advise, give us some elevations in the cross sections, because the elevations that were submitted with the house originally did not show ground floor, basement floor elevations as it relates to groundwater elevation. There was a response back. That information was transmitted to the architect as well as also to the Rayner Group. The Rayner Group has a cross section now included on their detail sheet C2, demonstrating that the floor of the basement is proposed at elevation 6 and groundwater is at elevation 3. So there will be a 3-foot separation distance. So there would not be any dewatering necessary for this installation of what they're proposing. And then lastly, two other things. I'd asked about the status of the health department. The applicant had provided information that the original application was just being approved by the health department, and they have to go back and get an amendment to that for this revised plan, the revised footprint. The sanitary has adjusted. There were 2 split systems. One system was to the north of where the currently proposed garage is, and the other one is off to the north of the western end of the house. Now they're all towards the western end of the house. So they have to go back and get an amendment for that. So prior to a building permit, they should deliver a copy of the health department approval for this plan. And then lastly, they did a relook at the drainage, mostly based on Kevin's comments, and they provided 34 stormwater runoff drainage rings on here, so they've increased the number of drainage. And I will let Kevin talk about that information. This is a type 2 action under SECRA. It's a single-family residential home, so it's a type 2 action under SECRA, so no further environmental review is required. So I'll leave it to Kevin to talk to you about the elements that he, as the village engineer, would take a look at. in terms of this is a site plan approval relative to excavation of fill and grade changes. So there are some standards in the code that you should be looking at as you consider the approval for this. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Thank you, Rich. I don't really have too much to add. We took a look at the revised plan submitted by the Rayner Group. They addressed all of our previous comments. They updated the grading to make sure and to, depict that they are doing their best in containing stormwater runoff on site. They added additional drainage structures to make sure that is happening. They fixed the grading around the tennis court to make sure that's complying with the code and the 4-foot height differential. They submitted a response letter to our comments that outlined how they responded and addressed each of our comments, which was wonderful for us. So it made our review nice and easy. Other than that, we don't have any further comments on this. As Rich mentioned, there is a net export of about 2,800 cubic yards for which an exportation permit would be required from the building inspector. The village building inspector, as far as we understand, they did update those calculations to include the cut associated with the drainage and the sanitary systems. And that is pretty much all we have. No further comments at this time.
Thank you, Kevin.
Sure.
And thank you, Rich. Having looked at the plans, it's a tremendous amount of detail on that thing. And I really appreciate you two guys grinding through it and finding all the little irregularities and then the applicant satisfying your inquiries. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does the board have any questions for the environmental consultant or the engineers? I'm totally baffled by their.
Do you want to hear from the applicants at all?
Oh, there we go. Sure. Do you have anything?
We're good.
Oh, okay. You're happy that they're happy.
We worked to respond as quickly as possible to all the Kelly here from Rayner Group, and Hollander, Kevin from Leroy Street, and Bailey Larkin from John Bennett's office.
Wow, it's nice to have friendly
I'm
faces.
happy to get up and talk, but I assume you have better things to do.
It was like to hear from the famous at all. I love it.
Told my wife about that.
Give me the dollar.
I disagree.
So Mayor, for the record, to address the recommendations from our consulting experts that are in the proposed resolution, we do address the deep watering if that is a requirement. It's included. We also make this resolution subject to any necessary health department applications for permits that'll be required as a condition precedent to issue of any building permits.
Okay.
Ryan, you had a question on the garage, whether it still is considered a detached garage with the basement underneath.
I think we should address that with John.
And I did speak with John as well, but he did check the new plans, and they are not connected with conditional space to the garage. So it's underneath, but you can't get from there to the garage, so it's still considered a detached.
Separate structures.
Ah, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
We have a resolution for approval of the site plan application. The first part I'm going to deem read, and the tail end of it, Rody, do you want to run through that? It's rather long.
Sure, Bill. So I'm calling you here. I got it just here.
Okay.
Now therefore, upon due deliberation and hearing, be it resolved and found by the planning board. One, that this application for the regrading of a portion of the property and certain proposed new two-story single-family dwelling, accessory structures, sanitary, stormwater, and water systems and associated grading and landscaping activities is consistent with the provisions of sections 245-67 and 245-66 of the code, and that the site plan application is approved as set forth in the surveyed site plan of the Saska Surveying Company PC, last dated July 25th, 2023. The grading, drainage, sanitary plan prepared by the Rayner Group PE and LSPLCC, last dated July 25th, 2023. The landscape plan prepared by Hollander Design Landscape Architects, last dated July 27, 2023. The architectural floor plans and elevations prepared by Leroy Street Studio, last dated July 27, 2023. And that as a condition, that as a condition of the granting of this application, the applicant must restore and remediate any adverse impacts or damage resulting from this project to Potato Road to the condition as reasonably existed prior to the commencement of construction. And 4, that while based on applicant's professional submission, no dewatering is anticipated. Should dewatering be required for the construction on the project, the applicant must consult with the village building department to determine what information may be needed relative to a temporary dewatering plan to ensure that neighboring properties are not affected by any such action. And 5, that this approval is granted subject to the necessary Suffolk County Health Department approvals, and the applicant must supply a copy of any SCDOH approvals to the village as a condition precedent to the issuance of a building permit for their records. And 4, that the work, 6, that the work proposed is consistent with the category of 6 NYCRR Part 617.5C, parentheses 12, which defines the proposed improvements as being within the type 2 action classified under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The end.
Just quickly, one question. This property is on Daniels Paragraph 3. It says restore Potato Road. Our access is by leads of Daniels. We have no access allowed to Potato.
Oh, you have no access to
No,
Potato Road at
no,
all? Okay,
no.
so that would be Daniels then on number 3, as opposed to Potato.
Okay, got it.
I'll make this motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Thank you.
Be nice.
You can come back next month if you want.
Probably will.
Thank you.
Bye.
Is the next applicant on Zoom?
Yes, that'd be Wayne Drew.
Okay.
Here he is.
Aha.
Good afternoon, board members.
Please go ahead. This is for 40 Narrow Lane East. It's a pre-application for a minor subdivision. The James Topping property had a house and an agricultural reserve, and now I guess we're splitting them apart. Anyway, please go ahead.
All right, I got it.
So as it was just described, this is a pre-application for subdivision of the property into 2 lots, one which will incorporate the existing house, and the second lot is a parcel which the town of Southampton has bought the development rights, the enhanced development rights. And this board may remember, some of the board members, that back in 2016, the Hopping family had proposed to subdivide this into 5 lots. We got as far as the public hearing, and then the family decided to sell the development rights off of the westerly portion along Sag Road and Narrow Lane. The easement that the town purchased encompassed 7.4 acres of the property, and the remaining portion, which is on the easterly side, 97,260 square feet, roughly 2.2 acres, incorporates the house, which is in a conforming building lot. The family, with the enhanced development rights easement, there are restrictions on the sale of the development rights, but there are no restrictions on the house lot. So they want to separate this so that they can properly convey one without being contingent on the other. So I understand that you may need a public hearing on this. And that you were to schedule that for your September meeting.
Am I correct that in my memory from 2016, that this was brought up in the same configuration at one point after we had finished discussing the other option?
This came up, we actually didn't hold, the public hearing was not even held on the 5-lot plan, which was a cluster plan, which would have preserved the land along the railroad track, the northerly portion, and placed house lots along narrow lane. At the time, the owners, the Hopping family, then negotiated a contract with the town, and we withdrew the 5-lot application altogether. There was, I believe, probably some discussion, at least with planners early on, reconfiguring the plan or considering lesser lots.
I
but we
think
never
there
got
was
to
some
that point.
casual discussion of it because I'm familiar with the survey, what you're presenting here, so. And granted, 2016 was a lifetime ago.
So we do have an application pending with the health department, and this is technically a subdivision. We don't have a lot of options. The line is exactly on the easement line.
Wayne, could you speak up?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Okay.
The last thing you said was the line was on the easement line. We are exactly on the easement line that was granted to the town. So, anyone here from Rich, Warren, or any of our consultants have any reports on this?
Okay.
Yeah, so I prepared a report on June 29th.
Can I just stop you for 1 second? Because I did not give the board your report because this being just the first presentation of this pre-application.
Too soon. That's
I
fine.
didn't give it to them because don't they have to set the public hearing for it? In which case then,
Well, no, this is a review of the application, and I think there are actually two things the board needs to do and then schedule the public hearing. So I reviewed the submission that was made. It was sent to my office. And this is a very logical plan. This is almost identical to what the first application that you talked about for the Topping property. This is doing it kind of in the reverse now. We've got one lot with a house on it. They had 2 lots and they're moving the lot over top of a house. So in going through the submission requirements for a pre-application, there were 2 items that I recommend the board waive. One of them in my report was that you're required to, in determining yield, so to speak, you're supposed to demonstrate an area for park requirement. No new lots are being created by this plan. There's an existing house on the property, and this applicant has already arranged with the town and sold development rights to actually preserve property. So I recommend that you waive the park requirement. And there's also the requirement that there be a cluster map provided. And I recommend you waive that as well, because this is effectively a cluster because you've got open space with a single lot. So I recommend you waive those 2 mapping requirements for a pre-app. And then I recommend that you schedule this for your next board meeting for a public hearing on the pre-app. And then we can prepare a pre-application report similar to what we did on Topping.
Good. Yeah, that's very logical to me. Does the board have any questions for Rich Warren?
it's staying the same.
Yeah.
What Rich is, there are requirements for us to do a subdivision into the code. And what Rich's proposal, which is what the resolution is before us as drafted, is to waive 2 conditions of it. One is to set aside parkland because the majority of this property is already preserved, not going to change. And the second part is on a cluster subdivision where you have to set aside open space. Well, 77% of this property is already preserved.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't make any sense on the,
Okay.
what we're seeking, asking this board to do is waive those provisions because it wouldn't make any sense because, again, 77% is preserved and the other parcel is already developed with a single family residence and can't be any further subdivided on that
Yeah.
proposed lot one. So it would essentially keep it the same, but now just getting it in conformance with otherwise required conditions of a subdivision map for you to consider. So we're waiving those two conditions. Did I
Got
make it any clearer?
Yeah, Okay, so we're ready for the resolution? Okay. The first part I will deem read, and the remainder, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees that under section 190-11, parentheses B, parentheses 6, the application must identify areas required for park dedication pursuant to the planning board subdivision regulations. However, no new lots are to be created under this application that have the potential for additional residential development, and therefore the park dedication requirement is waived. And that under section 190-11, parentheses C, the planning board is authorized pursuant to village law section 7-738 to approve cluster developments in all zoning districts, and any subdivision within the agricultural overlay district shall comply with the cluster requirements of section 208, parentheses B, parentheses 2 of the zoning code. However, the cluster requirement may be waived if the subdivision lot area is so small as to be inconsistent with any open space preservation goal. And the board finds that the applicant has already preserved 77% of the property through the sale of development rights to the town of Southampton through the Community Preservation Fund program, and therefore this cluster subdivision requirement is waived. And that this application is scheduled for a pre-application public hearing under section 190-10 for September 13th of 2023. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
We're done with Mr. Warren and Mr. Peterman. Is that correct?
We are.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate your help with these matters.
You're welcome.
My pleasure.
Go to the beach. It's nice.
Okay. Have a good day.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Let's go fill the village for you.
That was a lot. That was a major, almost a major project. Yeah, that was very good.
And it's a lot of things that you never thought would end all on the same meeting. It's kind of
Crazy
cool.
how it broke that way. Amazing.
Let's see, Southampton Town Police Department report. Maybe we do it next time?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah, okay. We have a letter from Elizabeth Barton, her analysis of some of the traffic patterns in front of her house. It's surprising that people still run the stop signs that much. I haven't noticed it that much, but she's there a lot more than we are, or I am, so I have to believe it.
I think you're just gonna find a few people naturally do that in their life, and we're not gonna stop them,
Right,
no matter what we do.
yeah, they go forth, the money doesn't matter, so, yeah.
I mean, it's a few people ruining it for the rest, that's what it is.
Let's see, we have a resolution for putting a stop sign at the intersection of Hedges and Wilkes from last week. I didn't realize we didn't pass it. but,
Wait, I don't even remember talking about it.
yeah,
Is it on Wilkes
at
or
the
on
end-
Hedges?
On Hedges at the end of Wilkes, at the
We
intersection.
discussed it in lieu of not putting a speed bump at that spot. We try a stop sign.
Okay. Going both ways?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be a three-way stop. So can I deem this read and we'll take a vote on it?
Just to be clear, what you can do it today, or you can do it next week, but the resolution is to place a stop sign on Hedges Lane at the intersection of Wilkes,
Right,
both in the east and west
Yep.
traveling lanes.
correct. Yeah, no, let's get it out of the way. We're here and alive. I'll make a motion to put in these 2 stop signs. Do I have a second for that?
Second,
All in favor? Aye.
No.
Opposed?
No.
Aye, okay. And what's next? Oh, speed tables. We had, there's a map somewhere of locations of the speed tables. I did take a ride with Jim Peterman, and he picked the same kind of spots I would. We try to keep them as far away as we can from somebody's house. Locations all make sense to me. And there's a map. Tinka, there is one fairly close to your house. Just be aware, I mean, I have one near my 140 feet from my house and it makes noise, but the trucks slow down for sure. Yeah, okay.
speed table number 4, I thought we had one in Bradley Tinka area, and we had one, there's 3 in here. So we're not 2. We had 2 originally, not 3 when we talked.
The speed table 5 is beyond Greenwich driveway before Peters Pond.
So where is speed?
4 is on a division between 2 of your neighbors, Bill. It's kind of like off the hedge. You put some farthest from each house. I think you and I looked at the
Yeah,
same
that's
spot.
Oh, so that's what we call Bill's brother's old house.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
On the other side of Bill. All right,
Right.
because on this, with the, because of the printing, you can't see.
yeah, no,
where
it's hard to
came
pick
from.
it out.
Yeah.
Number, I guess that's a 9, is by the Toppings house. If you go down, speed table 2 is well, by the White's farm field. It puts it just beyond the house on the west side of the road. Speed table 1 is on Bridge Lane at the edge of the field of, what is that, 351 Bridge Lane?
Yes.
Speed table 3 is between the Foster's 2 fields. Speed table 7 is just beyond Wolfer Winery driveway.
No, wait a second.
No, 7
That's not
is-
right.
7
Is that
is
right, or am I in the
on
wrong spot?
Hedges, 7 is on Hedges.
Ah, that's right, I'm sorry, yep. This is confusing. Keep the simple confused. Oh, that's by the post office, the temporary post office. Between the 2 accesses to that.
And not far from the other speed table.
Yeah, it's not that far away.
That's there already.
Right,
Because we had discussed, I understand where the temporary post office issue is, but we had also discussed how when they went down the hill, everybody, or up the hill, Fairfield down to Sagamane, in that section, they speed up.
right. Well, I know Barbara McCoy has complained about problems getting out of her driveway with the traffic speeding by. I think it'll help her a bit. And yeah, going down that hill, people speed up and often run the stop sign at the bottom of the hill.
It just seemed to me it might make more sense on the other side of Barbara as they head down the hill or up the hill, because somehow that hill, it's kind of like the hill on Daniels. Hills make people
Yeah.
speed up.
I know, but it puts it between a couple houses. You know, as much as possible, at least maybe one side we can get a field on it, and that'll remain a field. I think that,
Oh,
That was
after we're
my-
done with the post office.
yeah,
The
it'll be a
temporary.
field again. And you'll have it'll slow traffic between the entrance driveway and then the exit out on Fairfield. it'll make the traffic pattern a lot. I mean, that was my thought and why it's a good place to have it.
So we're having 5 speed tables on Daniels.
And Hedges is busier.
There are 4 additional ones going in on Daniels.
That's 5 total. And then we only have 3 on Hedges, or are we missing something?
3 on Hedges, 2 there and
We
1
had,
coming.
I don't know, did that get,
I put the stop sign in.
We put the
Oh, we put
stop
the
sign
stop
in,
sign.
yeah.
okay.
But we also had mentioned, I don't know, down, the one that was put in previously toward Town Line Road that exists currently. We talked about between there and there at the end of Town Line. That, I'm sorry, you guys can't see this. Between here and here, that stretch in here, before they accelerate down to Town Line.
You're on Hedges?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, near Jacob's Way, I think it's
Yeah.
called. Yeah, we did. I thought somehow that was vetoed, but I
Well, I
just thought,
think
yeah,
these two seem jammed up, is my point. They're very close together. And we had talked about that extent down there. I'm not doubting that Barbara can't get
Yeah.
out of her driveway. I totally understand that.
yeah.
I think Hedges Lane at the beginning and the end is kind of like that pressure as
I
people
had no
start.
problem with that. I originally thought that would be a great idea, so. I don't think there's any problem with us approving an additional speed bump.
I was thinking more either moving this one more that way or go down there. Because you see what I'm saying visually, you have 2 very tight together, but you have all
Well,
these
if you
big
drive with it,
expanses.
it's not that close when you actually.
Well,
drive.
and it's hard to see it on this.
Yeah,
I mean, we
right.
all have to agree to that. It's just visually hard to see.
Right.
So is there any way of seeing this, and we're in the month of August still, without the words speed table on it, so we can actually see where they are? You know what I mean? The word speed table is making it hard for us to find.
Jim did this, so I don't have the ability to move.
Oh, you can't move them off. I thought you might be computer whizzing it on.
I can't on this one, I would if I created it, but
Yeah.
I didn't. So
Which,
which road do you want to look at? Hedges?
Well, Hedges
This is
is where the yellow one is, and as well as Daniels, between Daniels and Fairfield, where it's located, because it's all words. It's like we're not seeing the location.
Here's Fairfield. Right here.
Mhm.
And here's Gibson down here.
Mhm.
So there's the first one on Daniels. That's by Toppings. There's the second one on Daniels, which is by Barbers. And then you have the intersection, which has got the stop signs. And you go further east, and then you've got one in front of Rennert's, which is a field to the north, proposed. Then the existing one is in front of just east of Goldman's property. And, sorry about that. And then the next one proposed, this is the first entrance to Erica's. That's the second entrance, so it's just past the first entrance to Erica's for another proposed one. And this is Town Line right here.
And this is what he suggested for where to put them?
Yeah,
Bill and-
that was his suggestion, and I took a ride with him and looked at it.
Yeah.
I'm suspicious speed bump 4 is on Bill Barber's edge line, not,
No, it's the
The
next
two
house,
houses
next
over.
house.
well,
over.
maybe he hasn't located right, and I'm only doing it by the Foster Farm Road there. That there's only 2 houses, or 2, I guess, houses. It's hard to tell because of words.
I think the house next to you has a hedge in front of it, right, Bill?
Yes.
And it was at the far end going away from you, as his intersection with the next house.
Next house,
Yeah.
both have
Yeah, I'm just
Right.
suspicious that all those, it's not in that spot, that you're 1 house off than what you said. But I could be wrong. It's hard to
Oh,
read.
but we physically went out.
Yeah.
and- Yeah,
And nobody wanted to consider one in front of the general store area.
That's, if you want to talk to those neighbors and get them to get on board with it, go ahead. Because, yeah, I mean, that's something down the road, but I think that's going to be controversial.
I think
The
once
houses
we
are so
repair the
close to
area,
it
Right.
that,
It does make noise. It was just like I said in my letter, somebody got hit on their bicycle there
I know.
the other day, so.
our little plastic man got flattened
Can't
this
even
week
keep the
again.
plastic man up.
He's gone again. We have to get another one.
She said he's back up.
It's back up.
Oh, the same one?
No, we went out to replace one. Now he said it's back up.
Oh, because since he was flat out on the side of the road, I didn't try my duct tape move. I figured it snapped the
It's
base.
very heavy.
I think he took the weekend off.
I would suggest that before we put or consider putting any speed bumps by the post office, the store, let that construction go first. There's gonna be a mess down there. It's gonna be a mess for about a year.
Or
When it's
two.
gonna start, I don't know. It's probably not gonna start for probably another 6 months. The post office is really a pain in the butt. They approved the plans, but now they want these designs in their particular format, and it's a process that's excruciating.
Who's Renee, or who's questioning on the post office in the store?
No,
that's
no,
the
no,
next
no,
one.
the federal.
Or the
Government.
federal
Oh,
government?
no, it's the post office, it's the federal that has to approve the layout of the post office.
They don't like the layout of it in the,
No, it's not that they don't like it.
They're the
They wanted
holdup.
certain things tweaked. There was certain measurements they had to have. There was a certain standard that they go by. And so David and we have been patiently working with them.
okay.
I just spoke with him today and they did get a conceptual agreement to the design and the temporary building. But now they have to put it in a format that can't be a CAD because they don't want that. So they have to hire another company who can only do whatever format they want it in.
They
but they're
wanted
working
an
on-
old fashioned drawing?
No, I didn't say that. Some other format besides a CAD. So they're putting that package together, they're working on that. My point being, they're not starting tomorrow, but I think we should wait for them to finish, because that's gonna be, they have to move that building back, and it's just gonna be a mess down there. After they finish, then you can read.
We could have easily road
And we're all
damage.
good with the health department? That's all been passed?
That's been one pass.
Yeah.
Health department was the piece of cake compared to the federal government.
So how do you want to proceed? Do we want to add a speed bump table by Jacob's Way on Hedges?
Well, it seems to, it's either that or you put a stop sign on Jacob's Way down that way.
No, I think the,
Well, you know,
the
let me know what you're thinking, but I'm just pointing out that there's
Yeah,
a
no.
large section that we've ignored, and Hedges Lane is our top commuter
I know what you mean.
hour, followed by Daniels, via out Bridge Lane or out via the school of that side of the highway, and then Narrow Lane has their own route out also. But it just, if you look at the
Yeah.
space divided up, we've missed
I agree.
something there. We know that Wilkes is, I guess, between those two, that line
I'm
there.
thinking it's this one here.
That's Wilkes?
I believe that's Wilkes. Because that's old barn.
Yeah.
No, right,
That's
Omar and
Wilkes.
Turns.
I mean, I'm sorry,
That's
that's
Jacobs.
Jacobs.
Yeah.
I would put it down
I
by
believe
Jacobs.
this is it right here.
Yeah.
It just seems to me, like this morning on Hedges Lane, and I was on my bike at 6:15. I was
Oh, yeah.
shocked, and I, in my head said, well, not until September, I'm not coming back to Hedges Lane.
Right.
You know, it's,
Does anyone else feel that way? I agree with it. I always thought we'd do something there. I know we had comment from at least one person at that end of the road saying that speed had decreased, but they would rather have one farther down in their house.
As long as the people who want it, I mean, I did hear also from someone who says it's quite noisy from his house.
Right,
The ones by the school.
right.
With the higher, they said it's really noisy. So there's a lot of, I see there's a lot of houses down there. And
I think we we learned too, that the ones by the school have a different pitch.
Right.
Is that the right term?
Yeah,
And the Daniels Lane one and the Crestview one and Hedges almost, but not quite, are, I would venture to say, not that I lived exactly by one of them.
yeah. Well, I can tell you that they aren't, even the speed tables are noisy because people go over them faster than the bumps by the school. I mean, they're designed for 25 and I go over them at 25 or sometimes 30. Not problematic for a small vehicle, but the big noise producers are trucks. But I think slowing trucks down is important. I mean, if you go back to the spring, I think it was, a woman was hit in North Haven. They have a full 5-foot bike lane and she was walking in it and a truck, I think it was April Warnick. Remember? Her arm was broken, the mirror of the truck hit her. And the truck bodies, most of them are the maximum width you can get. So that means they're at least a foot to a foot and a half wider than a car. And then their mirrors stick out beyond
They
that.
really stick out.
Yeah,
We also had close to us Jeff Fusco, north of the highway on the Wainscott side
Hmm.
of us, but I mean, close to us. And I think he's not even out of the hospital and that was in
Oh.
June. He's a mess.
yeah, no, it's
Oh,
terrible.
no.
But I
That was a
think,
bike?
He was on the bike. He was hit by a truck.
I think anything that can slow traffic down. I mean, that's the whole name of the game. I mean, I've never thought we would do something like, was it Jennings Avenue, where they have those 5-inch high, very narrow disruptions in the road in 0.4 miles. If you put that on, I mean, you want to get rid of traffic, you do those things on Daniels Lane, you have 19 of them on their spaces, and no one would drive down that road. It would probably affect real estate values, but boy, it would be one quiet road. I don't think that's the way to go, but I think these things that are attuned to our speed limit, where you can go, if you want people to go 25, they can go over 25.
Sure.
And
There's two problems with the speed bumps and the trucks. The noise is secondary. Most of the trucks that are going down there are being driven by other than the owners of the trucks.
right,
And they don't care about what a speed bump does to their boss's truck. They hit it, they don't slow down, they just hit it and let the only ones that really slow down is the ones that own the truck and have a mower on the back that they paid $5,000-7,000 for, and they don't want their mower that it costs them money bouncing off, and they slow down. And the other thing is the stop signs work. They work great on Bridge Lane as long as people are stopping. And in my observation, they have been stopping for the ones on Bridge Lane. The problem with that is the enforcement.
That's right.
I rarely drive, I drive through Sagaponack pretty much every day, and I rarely see any of the officers stopped at these stop signs and writing tickets. You never see anybody writing tickets. I think we have to emphasize to the chief and that we give me a ticket, give a local a ticket if you want, but enforce these stop signs that we're putting in. These guys, I see these guys up on the highway all the time. doing their work.
I'm not trying to defend the officers, but I do know there's only 3 places in the village where they can actually get the reception for their computer.
That's
So
why
that's
we
one.
need a cell
One
tower.
is out here at the driveway, one is up there, and I think the other one is down at Sag Main Beach. Don't hold me to that, I'm not sure where the third one is. The other thing is, not all of them, but most of them come in to say what's going on, whatever. And I do know that one of the officers was sitting down at Seascape last week and hit quite a few people with tickets at the stop sign on Ridge Lane because they just sailed right on through.
They did.
So
Yeah, he was there.
I'd like to see something to report where how many
I'm not
stop
gonna say
signs.
that they all do it, but I do know that the ones that somebody got a ticket last week for going through the stop sign at Ridge Lane, that I can tell you.
Yeah,
It
sometimes.
should be more than one.
last night. I
There
went
should
by
be
last
more
night
than
and
one
had
in
some
1 week
people
that got a
there.
ticket.
Well, no, you're right, Bill. I'm just telling you about the one that I knew about. And
Can
I
they all
can
get
absolutely,
tickets?
they all give tickets, but we also have the TCOs that are here that are giving the parking tickets.
They can't
That,
give.
that's correct, but they give parking tickets. So I can certainly, we did have a
Excuse.
conversation with the meeting with the chief and the sergeant. I can send it out again to them to remind them that the board is looking for them to step up the enforcement of
Yeah, I mean,
the speeding and,
I mean, to
you know.
date myself, I didn't have a computer for 20 years. So I could write a ticket without a computer.
You
They
actually
can
wrote it.
too.
They can, but
They can too.
prefer to, because everything's entered, if they do it on the sheet, it's still gotta be entered in at some point.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not defending them, I'm just, I'll send another email reminding
Yeah,
them.
no, I mean,
And
I
there's
think,
only one
I
car.
think this whole, I mean, the village of Quogue has brought up a lot about being very strict.
You don't mess
Nobody,
around.
and it's no, you don't speed through the village. You stop at the stop signs.
The
You,
village of Quogue also has their own police department.
right, they have their own police department, but they also have a reputation of being very strict and writing a lot of tickets. And with all these speed bumps and stop signs and stuff that we're putting in, it would be nice eventually, I mean, you can't expect it overnight, but it would be nice if we got a reputation. And people said, no, I'm not gonna take Daniel's Lane, I'm not gonna take Hedges Lane to work, and get a ticket, I'll stay on top. I mean, that's the reputation that we can expect after all these safety measures we're putting in, eventually, but it's not gonna happen overnight. In the meantime, I'd like to see, more guys hiding around the corner from Marilyn's house, right?
It was really satisfying that time when he was on Seascape and somebody passed us and the police officer pulled out and gave him a ticket.
Yeah, I mean, and that word gets out too. That word spreads. Oh man, I got a ticket.
It's really.
Slow down, I'm not gonna.
You know, the old fashioned cheat sheet, that, lists a couple things for you to remember. And it could be your groceries, or it could be, maybe we need to have a cheat sheet when the young people police come in to talk to Rhodey. Oh, and remember these corners this week.
Just tell them to do their job.
Well, I'm referring to, you can take all the prime corners that start the commute and end the commute.
It sounds to me
Okay.
like the issue is the service.
The cell service, yes.
I'm sure they would do anything that we ask them to, but
You're right.
they're supposed to have a computer, put all this stuff through, and they can't get it where we want them to go, then that's a big problem.
Yeah.
It's more work for them.
Problem.
It's more work. They have to.
Are they
enter it
allowed
later.
to enter it later? Like write the ticket?
I feel like once they enter it, it's in there, and when they get in a service area, it pops right in, right? No?
I don't know. I don't understand.
Well, maybe not having a working computer, when you pull someone over, it makes it dangerous for the officer.
Because they might be a bad guy.
They might be a bad guy. So example, I'm just making this up. Pretend this person has previous convictions with weapons. So when the police officer, before she gets out of their car, they put that license plate in.
Yeah.
Then dispatch knows to send a second car because so they're not getting through to home base either as to what they're doing. So maybe we need to learn more about how we can help them write a ticket via our area. And a cell tower eventually will probably be outmoded in 10 years because there'll be something new, but we should look into getting some way of boosting their power in SAG. Or
But let's get back to what we can do.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, I mean, if you read the letters in the Southampton Press or the East Hampton Star, the East Hampton or the Sag Harbor Express, and they don't run over the same things if you look at traffic. Everybody has the same complaint. Going to the beach in the middle of the day, which I never do, but somebody dragged me down there. I talked to somebody from Bridgehampton on Butter Lane, and he said people drag race down, and I said, why don't you go to the town and get her, put in a couple speed bumps like we did? And he's like, oh. And another activist I used to deal with in Bridgehampton, just a general conversation, said, oh, and by the way, we don't like your speed bumps. And I was gonna say, and I didn't, I said, well, then stay the hell out of Saginaw. You know, if you're gonna do a cut through to East Hampton through us, you know, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's terrible to have attitude, and it's terrible to have to make noise in front of somebody's house with one of these things. Because I keep saying, I got one 140 feet from my house, and I hear it. And every time the garbage trucks go slow by my house now, they used to go by at 45 miles an hour. And if you're on a bicycle and a garbage truck goes by at 45, it's
You think
scary.
that it is
You know,
scary.
because it's wide and it's got
Well,
the
and
wheels
you
sticking out.
just sound from behind coming toward you.
Yeah,
You just think you're gonna be, you feel like in the early morning, particularly the Southampton town wreck garbage.
exactly. I was gonna bring that up, but I thought, no, leave the town alone, but they
No.
do speed. Yeah.
They totally speed down
Yeah.
Sagamore. They pass your farm in the morning early, between 6 and 6. You
Yeah.
have to hear it.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I think we put these damn things in. I mean, I don't like them. I like driving around like a fool. Well, not, you know, I mean, I got calmed down, but but this
Ocean
will
Road
work.
residents are actually looking to request after having seen ours by.
Yeah, people go fast down there.
Well, Ocean Road, they do.
Anyway, what are we gonna do? We're gonna, we want all of these, we want to vote by one. Does somebody object to some of them or all of them?
Well, I'm against 2 and 8, and you
2
can
and
figure
8.
out how to do it from there.
Their number?
Yes,
Yeah, 2's the one.
2 is South Sag Main,
Yeah.
and 8 is North Sag Road.
It's,
The most southern.
We already have stop signs by the train trestle.
Which one?
2.
The one by the winery and the one.
Yeah, that's by the
on way
winery.
to the beach.
What do you don't like 2 and 8?
Well, 8 already has stop signs there, new stop signs put in. And 2, I don't know that it's warranted down there. I mean, there's a corner coming up and it's the beach and people are always parked there, and I don't think people can go that fast down on South Sag Main.
They absolutely do.
So those are the 2 reasons why.
Yeah. But the other ones are acceptable?
I accept the others.
Where's 8?
Oh,
It's in
by the-
front of,
by the
yeah,
winery.
the winery.
It's by Wolfer's Gate.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Driveway. That was requested.
Yeah, well, the guy Ron from the winery, I actually spoke with him. And he said that would be great because they have a lot of traffic at times coming in and out, and the traffic coming down there. Once it gets beyond the stop sign at Narrow Lane, they're heading for the highway and they go fast. And actually that guy, was it Rogan, I think it is? He got he went out and solicited people. Dunlop and his wife have been there forever. They wanted it. Fred Wilford I spoke to, and he was in favor of it. I mean, the people who live there feel like they would like that.
What's the liability of these things? Anybody know that?
I think I sent an email out around that.
You did.
Oh, you did.
I couldn't see the email.
Yeah, it was an unusual case, but I think that case is that now it's frivolous. It's really about the advanced signage. And we do a pretty good, we do a very good job.
Yeah, yeah.
And the one on the south end towards the beach on Sag Main Street, 11 homeowners from that area petitioned it. You know, it's hard to say, you know, they want their kids to walk to the beach because it's a short walk to the beach. They don't have to drive them. Thomas and Molly Babcock, some of the stuff I can't read their handwriting. Madeline Benjamin, one Sag Pond Court, Armin Raman, 11 Sag Pond Court, Egan Green.
The number, the person who signed it but said, don't put it near my house,
It was
Um,
1085.
are we, I don't know the numbers enough.
That's a couple houses, it's way beyond it,
It's
yeah. No,
just because they were kind enough to explain,
right,
you know,
right,
that they were for the idea, but they didn't want it
yeah.
noise wise.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't remember whose
That's
house.
like
that-
affordable housing.
And what's the
Everybody
story?
wants it, but not in my
What do we
neighborhood.
think about the temporary speed bumps?
If you want to investigate it, but you'd have to take them off before the snow plow. I didn't ask what it cost. They did one in North Haven, and I went over to check on it. This was on Sunset and Tyndall Road. And they took it up, and they had only done one side of the road, and they said people were going around it.
Yeah.
And I just remember they said it was expensive, but I have no idea what that.
So if we could put it on in for the 2 or 3 summer months and then take it away for the rest.
If you want to investigate the cost of it, I bet you it ain't cheap.
Are you talking about those yellow?
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a temporary solution
Speed
to
bump?
this instead of having a speed bump there all year long, which the local residents have to put up with, who are not probably speeding and not stopping at the stop signs, for people who come in the summer and ruin it for everybody else wanting, I don't know how many of those people are local residents.
Honest about Molly Babcock have children in school here.
Okay,
I don't know the rest of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's just a suggestion. I mean,
I don't know if there must be a lot of different types of those, but in Montauk Shores, they've got the temporary ones, and they're awful. You hate them. It's like you have to stop to go over them. They're the worst.
What are they made of? I know I'm being.
rubber.
The heavy rubber.
Heavy rubber, okay,
And maybe there's different kinds, but these
Yeah.
ones are awful. Like you really have to stop.
Yeah. Well, ours are 22 feet down the road. If you need 22 feet of rubber and you're gonna put it up and take it down, it ain't gonna be cheap, the installation of the removal.
and you have to, where do you,
I'm sorry, Carrie, that we annoy you with this.
Well, it costs
But-
what, 12,000 to put one in?
Yeah.
So then 12,000 one way and 12,000 the other way?
No,
No, the whole
that's
whole
the whole way
thing
across.
is
it's
flat.
about 14,000 a table.
Okay, so going from either side of the road,
Right.
Full.
Yeah.
Full width.
And then what about that one that you were talking about between near
Jacobs?
Jacobs? Yeah.
Is there a consensus that we would want to add that? Do it now?
it seems to me that we're ignoring, you know, and now that you see it on the map, is a good way of visually
Right.
seeing it. But Hedges Lane is our busiest commute
It
road.
is so busy.
It is insanely busy. I don't know how anybody gets out there driving.
I know one lady on Jacobs Way, and she loves the speed bumps, whatever.
Okay.
I have someone on Hedges Lane set back who is terrified to walk on Hedges Lane and loves the speed bumps.
Okay.
I say let's put them in.
So we can vote on 2 and 8 now, and then the rest as a second.
Sure, okay. For a speed bump,
No, big 2 and 8 together. is
oh,
what
2 and
you're
8
saying.
together, okay.
That's what you mean,
Yeah.
right?
They're-
The most southern and the most north.
yeah.
So 2's on the south end of Sag Main Street and 8 is on Sag Road. just
And they're the
before-
ones that were
That's,
requested.
they were both petitioned,
Both
yeah.
of them, yes.
Do I have a second?
Who made the motion? You did?
I'll make the motion.
What's the motion?
To approve those three. Because they were controversial.
Oh,
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Okay, and all against?
Oh.
Opposed, okay, so noted. Always good to have some dissent. On the rest of them, including adding one somewhere near Jacobs. I'll make a motion to approve the rest of them with one additional somewhere on Hedges near Jacobs.
So that's 8.
So a total of 10.
Yeah.
Cat.
Oh, no, no, that's not a total.
No, it is a total of 10, because right now, there are 9 proposed. You just voted for 2 of them,
That's 7.
right, and you're adding 1 more.
That's 8.
That's 8, so there are a total of 10.
Yeah, the total of 10, but there's 8 that we're voting on
In this
now.
pack,
Yes.
that we're voting, this grouping.
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And just to, the proposal for 9 was $112,437.50. So assuming it's about 14,000 per, if you do a, see here. One. So if we do a maximum of 117,000, that should cover the 10
Yeah,
tables.
but I mean, just use a round number and they're gonna charge us less than that, hopefully.
Right,
But
When they get
in the
cost.
bid, don't we fold that in with the paving?
no, what I'm trying to do is get you to approve the payment. of
Oh,
this.
payment, I see.
Right, and the numbers that Jim had provided was for 9 tables. Divide that by 9, it comes up to about 14 per table. So if you add 14,000 to the number he's got for the additional table, it's around 117,000. So you max out at that, of course, not to exceed.
I thought you said it cost 112,000 for the 9.
Plus
And then
14.
if you add 14, that's
126.
126.
Oops,
Yeah.
see that? I
You're
told you I
doing
needed new
126.
glasses. So that'd be 127.
Yeah,
because
not
it's like
24.
10,000. Yes, that's a 2, not a 1.
If we get to a bigger dozen. we can
And
see.
you know, she's good on catching typos too.
No, that's, hey,
It
It's
comes
always
with this
good to have
chair.
another set of
Joyce
eyeballs.
Seeger could always catch a typo.
so of course not to exceed 127,000.
Okay.
Okay.
So do you need resolutions and
Well, I'm gonna
That's
roll
what
that
I-
make it to what you just.
I must have overheard that.
Baker's dozen.
Yeah, exactly.
parties
Oh,
there we go.
and weddings? this
Yes, so for the assembly permits, there are 2. First one is Gather for Good. The organization's name is East End Food Institute. It's a nonprofit fundraiser on August 20th. It's a Saturday from 6 to 10. And it is $1,000 of admission charge for the event. They expect, number of people expected are 50, and the number of people in the working are 15, so that's 65. It's at a residence, the house and garage. Where is that? Crestview, okay. Yeah.
One of my contiguous, it's off my
So,
head.
is that before Edward Hagan?
I believe it's before.
It's the
Yeah.
second house in on the left. It's the
Okay.
back section of my
Alright,
property.
so it's just shortly up Crestview on the left. There's cocktails followed by a seated dinner. Number of vehicles expected are 25 to 30. There will be no valet. And there you have attached a picture of parking, which would be the south side of Crestview, which is vacant. It's the field there. There's no on-site security. The caterer is Michael Rossi, Chef Michael Rossi from the 1770 house. And they just say that they're going to be remove the refuse at the close of the event. No portable bathrooms, no town police, no highway department, and no building inspector. They will have, for the sound system, a small PA system with a mic, and it's going to be low volume. Solo acoustic guitar, the lighting is LED lamps on the tables, no tents, and the signs are lawn signs at the driveway and parking, no generators, and it's basically a quiet, low-key, intimate dinner. Any questions or thoughts?
How, on the parking on Crestview, are they gonna do a placard since they don't have a parking service?
What time is this event?
10 to 10 more? No, no, no.
After 6 p.m. they
4
don't
to
need it.
6 to 10. What is placard?
But I do send, this application does get sent to the police, so they do know the event is happening and where they're parking.
Sometimes she prints a placard.
Oh, to allow them to do it, yeah.
That it goes, and it also helps them, people remember where they're supposed to park, it says.
But a lot of times what I'll do, and I'll probably do it on this one too, is to give them between signs. So I'll have the name of the party, put the arrow this way, name of the party, put the arrow this way, and they can park in between them, which is
Right.
probably what.
As long as they don't block the corner,
Yep.
like the last car parker that literally closed Crestview off and blocked the corner. Set up the
Well,
little
this is good because
station.
they don't have any downward parkers, so. there's nothing
Right.
about that. But that's what I would do on that, is just sort of to keep them off in the directions. I'm not parking too close to that corner yet.
I think I got stuck in there. Oh, all right, so I make a motion that we,
You don't have to do this today, if you don't want, you can do it next week.
Do it now, why not?
okay, make a motion
Next
to,
week, don't.
I'll second it.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then the next one is called the Weldy Bolt, B-O-L-T. Oh, by the way, this was a first time thing for the Gather for Good people.
Yes, I've never did that.
Yeah.
I've never gotten it.
Okay, the Weldy Bolt wedding, which is going to be September 23rd from 4 to 11. They live on Syconic Road, just south of the third driveway south of Syke School on the north side. Just past Uncle Tom's house. And they are expecting 225 people and 60 to 80 to put on this production. So they are 620 Syconic Road. They're having the ceremony, the cocktail hour, and the reception for the wedding on the lawn. And the cocktail hour on the tennis court. The number of vehicles expected is 15 to 30. And the reason for that is because most of them are going to be bussed in from wherever. And there will be a valet company, and they are the People Pool Valet. There will be on-site security. It's CM security. Is that Charlie?
Charlie,
Yeah.
Same thing.
And the refuse is off-site. We have the refuse company.
I don't know if they've been dumpsters, I'm not sure either.
Okay. They're gonna be dumpsters?
If I was having that big of a wedding, I get a dumpster in there.
Moved off-site. Where are they gonna move it to?
I can
The
get-
refuse company.
I can get, my guess is they're getting a dumpster, and when they, after the wedding, the dumpster company, garbage companies come to pick up the dumpster. That's what I think that means.
Okay, let's find out where the dumpster's gonna be.
Yep.
So let's see, the dumpster, yeah. And they will require portable bathrooms.
You would think.
One 24-foot unit located behind the reception tent and one 16-foot unit located in the driveway. No police, no highway department, no inspector. For sound, there's a mic for the ceremony, cocktail hour reception. Music is a band. Hank Lane. Let's see, this is from 4 to 11, okay. The tent and exterior property. They have luminous designs, no, in the tent and exterior property. Exterior property, I'm wondering what that means. They'll have lighting on the exterior of the property.
on the property.
A 50 by 60 Navitrack tent in the tennis court. And a 66 by 126 on the back lawn, Sperry, and a 20 by 30 cook tent. Navitrack. There will be one trailer unit of generators.
Maybe they could leave the tents afterwards and put some migrants in them. Like New York City.
That's,
This
they're
setup,
gonna be gone by
could
then,
be-
September.
but did we ask the setup question?
Oh, right.
How long it takes to set this up?
Yeah.
These are not that type of tents.
Well,
We haven't got the tent, we haven't.
I mean, they might end up closing the road by the school in September. We might ask it. I
Well,
don't
we
know.
haven't gotten the tent application yet. That's when we find out.
Okay. I'm just worried about, that's,
Yeah,
that's,
But
Great
that's,
question.
So I guess we'll wait on this then.
well, the
Yeah.
other thing that I'd like you to bring to your attention is the parking plan.
Oh, I didn't go
see,
over that.
okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Neither did
I disagree with it also.
They did a parking plan with the application that has, and again, I questioned the 30 people for a 250 guest
Yeah.
event. And they said most of them were being bussed in or Ubered in. And so anyway, they put the parking on the property that they own to the north of them, which is the field. And so they have
Well,
the
that's to the
parking
west of them, I think.
to the north of their property. And so that field is where they propose to park some of the guests. And their overflow is over on Parsonage Lane.
Wait, a minute.
And I said,
wait, that's this parsonage?
here's the.
Oh.
here's
Oh, wait, I
Sag Main
read this
Street.
whole thing wrong.
Yeah,
I
they
thought
had
this
this
was Sagaponic Road.
Nope, that's Sag Main Street. This is their house, right? Let's see, where's the school? School is
Yeah,
here.
they're right there.
Yep. And so.
That makes no sense.
Oh, wait a minute. No, this is them.
Yes, this is that, you're
Yeah.
right, correct. And this could even go just a little bit higher because this property here that they own only goes, because then it turns into kind of land trusts. So this whole, they don't own this whole thing. Anyway, so that's why they have it proposed up to here, on the property on Sag Main
Well,
Street.
that's
And they're-
why they're mowing it now.
So the overflow is on Parsonage Lane, and I thought that that was not the most, the best place for park. So I sent an email to them explaining that I felt that they should do, and my Google map is in your package, that has the parking there as they proposed on their fence, but to bring it along Sag Main Street up to the north.
No.
Because everything is on that side, it's safer than having to get people running across the street here to park all these cars. So then she responded back to me and said that the majority of guests will be traveling to the wedding via shuttle. They anticipate fewer than 70 guests driving to the event. Additionally, as a courtesy to the farm stand opposite the property, we did not want to park and overflow in the immediate vicinity of the property. We figured there would already be enough activity in the area. We wanted to cause as little inconvenience to their customers as possible. So that's why they proposed here. I do not think that this Parsonage Lane is the spot for the overflow.
And I
In my
don't,
opinion.
I agree, and I don't think it's on Sag Main Street either.
Okay, so then we have to tell them.
Where does the
where
bus
other-
park?
Well, how many
not going
vehicles
in
can
the
fit
field.
in here?
See,
She said she only needs 25 vehicles.
30,
25,
50
no,
tops, probably.
15 to 30 is
Right,
what she
I know.
said.
I know what you're saying. But I agree, I think that I think there's enough space here where they can even put 2 rows in, that they should be able to get everybody parking out there. So what I
So
will
the
do.
bus can't get off the road. to
I don't know where
park
the bus
during
is
the
parking.
event.
I don't know if they plan
That's
to
very
park the bus in
important to ask.
there. If they do, then my suggestion will be have the bus
Go down to the beach.
go down, I mean,
Go
I
down to
don't
the
know. Let me
beach.
talk to Charlie. He's the one that I'm just doing these emails with the office. So let me ask Charlie.
Well,
Is
there
it-
was once a fair somewhere, I don't know where, and they all parked right here at the farm stand.
Right.
And it was not a good thing.
Mhm.
I'm not even talking about for the farm stand. It's just not a good thing for Sag Main Street.
Well, it's not the first event that's parked on Sag Main Street, but let me talk to Charlie and see if they can't get 2 rows of cars in on that property.
Have you been by it and seen where they've mowed? They can easily get 2 rows of cars.
So let me talk to Charlie and see if he can. I just don't think it's.
And you're gonna ask them about the bus.
What's on Sagaponic Road?
Well, the house is located on Sagaponic Road, but I don't know if they want to park, because that would be the other suggestion, is
Is
to
this
park them.
Sagaponic Road here?
Yeah, is to park them on Sagaponic Road down this way. But
Well,
let me,
that's what I suggest.
let me talk to Charlie and see, let me see. I mean, because this is kind of keeping it out of the way, but they do own this property here. So that's why I'm sure they
The
suggested.
Pocahontas Land Trust.
No, Connect Land Trust owns this one, this block right here, in the house. That's just no restrictions and the road is on.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will talk to Charlie. And see.
And next week, we're meeting again, so we can get that information. Because you know they can't pull the bus in on the grass most likely.
So is the bus staying and
I don't
what
have-
company
I
is
don't
the
have-
bus? Let's find that out.
I don't know if George will use it, but I will
What
ask
bus
Charlie.
company is it?
I don't know.
Oh, he'll know?
No, probably not.
Oh.
Well, there were stuffed cars in the mud last year with the 11 tents. Remember that pouring rain weekend? They couldn't pull into the parking area and some of them were stuck there the next morning. So obviously they revegetated the lot afterwards, but a bus isn't gonna pull in on a farm lot. They won't take that chance.
You have anything else to read in front of us?
No.
I don't know.
That
how
one.
much.
I wondered why next week. I just don't know. I just don't think this
Go and
is.
see something.
It was fascinating, especially when we got to
Going
the
next
extra
to
hour.
It's a
3
weird.
hours, which of course the working day.
There's a bunch of trees there. They still
Where they have a pond,
And,
just take a pond out.
we don't want to see the park either, especially on Sag Main Street. I feel like Sag Main Street is.
Of course, they were talking a lot.
Royal.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that horrible?
Okay, I will get that information in for you for next week.
I have one question. Out of stupidity. What is an untitled place mark and an untitled power?
Oh, that's the Google Maps. When you put the pins in, and if that's on mine, I didn't title them, I just pop the pins in. So when you do Google Map and you want to maneuver it and put the markers in it, you can title it. And if you don't title it, it just comes up as untitled.
Ah. What is a polygon?
Is that what it says too? Yeah, that's a line. So there's different, and some people know how to get their table out, like Jim from Peterman's. I don't, that's why it's on mine.
Well, I don't feel it now. It should be.
I had no idea.
Okay, so we'll wait until next week.
So I'll get that information for you for next week.
All the nuptials.
Well, that's the end of our business, is financials to look at. I don't see any problems with them. But maybe somebody else can find a problem. Make hair, road his hair turn gray.
Bless.
Next
So
meeting, August
we're gonna
16th.
adjourn.
Unless you want a quick architectural and historic review board report.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the first item out, 219 Sag Main, was adjourned to next month. 106 Erica's Lane, the applicants came with reduced lighting, reduced glass causing less lighting at night in the rear, which was amazing, the amount of glass they reduced. So it was approved, and what was neat is rarely does it happen when you're asked. Sometimes it takes 3 months to be asked and then it happens. So this one kind of made me smile. 194 Erica's Lane. Erica's Lane is the hot construction site right now. Renovation, the plans were revised from the previous month, and the landscape plan, not the house plans, and the landscape plan, and they're gonna go to the committee on two, once they get their paint samples to the office here. But it was over what color white, which gets, they're called such funny things. Who could tell? They were talking about baby's breath white. I couldn't imagine what color that meant, but they called it that. 377 Parsonage Lane, a renovation on an existing house. Some doors and windows were being changed. Some were being added. The board was very pleased in what they saw, and it was approved. They felt it was improvement on the house, which is nice. 610 Sag Main Street revised their design from last month. They did reduce some of the windows, but and they changed to shingles on the entire house. They had this mishmash of stucco and shingles, so that was a positive. But they were adjourned to next month due to lighting. 230 Town Line Road was adjourned by the board of 3 this past month, 3 or 4. I'm trying to see what I was visualizing there. Anyway, because the board is going to actually go and do a site visit. That is the house on the corner, even though I said 230 Town Line Road, it's on the corner of Town Line and Daniels that we've discussed over the last year or two or more, that had a very unique staircase going up on the exterior of the house and such.
The southeast corner.
North. East.
And those where they didn't build what they were permitted for.
And
they
where we're able,
Just ran amok.
where we can park to go to the
Yeah,
beach, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have stakes in the ground, which are the metal stakes for the people who
right.
want to jump off the road to avoid being hit. I want their metal stake on,
Sure.
but that wasn't discussed in the meeting, but putting that one on to it.
Oh, tell John Woodsman.
And they need to be pulled
It's on
out.
Town Line, right? It's on Town Line.
It's on Town
Yeah.
Line. They need to be pulled out. It's just not fair that pedestrians can't jump into a piece
I
of
thought,
property.
I thought I had told them, but maybe I didn't.
Okay, then we went to the driveway gates, which are always exciting. 565 Daniels Lane, which you think it's on Daniels, but it's one of the flags in toward the end section. It's not physically on Daniels. They wanted 2 driveway gates. The board was not feeling it. That's a Lisa comment. And the board brought up the fact that they were 300 feet from the road and they had 2 driveways, and to put 2 gates up, it just seemed to jam that flag that in my mind, I was thinking, oh my God, how could the UPS or the FedEx turn around? So anyway, they are to revisit it and consider doing 1 cut.
What's the name on it?
565 Daniels. It was an LLC. I don't have a person name. But down past
Yeah,
where you were. 583 Hedges Lane. We're looking for gate. The house is not on Hedges Lane. Another, when you read an address. And so the board is going to do a site visit. They were just not totally visually seeing it, and the fact that the house is not on Hedges Lane, a busy road, it wasn't kind of coming clear. And that happens a lot of times on surveys. So they're going to go check it out next month and get back to it. The last house is what I was waiting for, the 2.5 to 3 hours. Is 871 Sag Main Street, which is right before Cemetery Lane starts. Historically, it's old Fred Topping's house, hence been Peter Smith's property for quite a while. And the new owner was there with Val Florios, and they went over, it was a discussion item, possibilities of what the board might approve. The board was very receptive. The new owners seemed very, and Val, very respectful of the historical site. The kitchen in the back building that had kitchen and a bedroom and such living area has been removed. So I'm assuming the CO has been solved, because it has been purchased from what the lady was saying.
They haven't done an updated CO yet.
But yeah, but they met the requirements, is guess what they imply.
Is this that White House, the White House?
No,
No,
it's
it's
Freddie
Fred
Topping's
Topping's old house.
where he grew up.
Al
North of
Topping?
the White House.
Al Topping.
Al Toppin's house?
Yeah.
the-
The green shutters.
Okay.
With all the buildings in the back.
All the buildings in the back. And so in order to do an addition, many times you can do an addition not seen from the road when you have a historic house, and you put a tunnel underneath to do that. Well, the water table there, which is kind of surprising to me, is only 7 feet. It is not possible. So they presented up on the screen a very attractive looking option and they moved it, and it appears not to be visible from the street, you know, as they did the 360 kind of thing.
But
But
this
they,
is more than gates.
yeah, no, this is the possibility of working on this lot.
Yeah.
It's a discussion item. So in order for them to do that, because all historical buildings are usually too close to the road because they're not 60 feet back.
Which this one is probably.
I'm not, no, I don't think actually the house is 60 feet back.
It's pretty close.
It's pretty close. So they're going to have to go to zoning, and they were looking for the architecture board's approval on this possible addition in the back, but they haven't totally drawn it yet. This is a kind of discussion item still. So the board was very pleased with what they saw, the fact that the new owner was willing to renovate and save the front house respectfully, and assumingly put an addition out the back. The new owner needs 6 bedrooms, the current house has 4. The addition was not visually to me on the computer appearing, you know, as they were doing the computer drawing, to be too large. So this is going to revisit us as a village on zoning. They're hoping that the architecture board will write a letter to zoning once they get in the lineup and formal drawings drawn and things like that. So this is going to come back at us probably every month for the next 6 months. And I don't believe they even have a health department permit yet, so give it a year.
Just bought
Did they buy all the buildings in the
All
back?
buildings
in the back.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that was, so I guess I
It's
missed.
all-
Yeah, they got all the buildings, and I haven't walked back there in years, but there are a lot of buildings.
Right.
I mean, that's an amazing site, and they're wanting to keep them as barns. I mean, one might be a garage, but you know, as
Right.
respectful, so.
There's a basketball court back there, one of.
Squash.
Squash.
And
There's a lot
yeah,
of-
Marilyn's husband used to have a studio in back too. So zoning board is this coming Friday, and so I can tell you next week.
Okay.
Quick, just a question. Is there, the house is historic?
Yes,
That's the- what
And
we're
it's in
trying
the
to-
historic district,
District.
right?
The buildings in the back, can they be torn down? if they're
not
removed?
all the barns were built at the same time, obviously.
Right,
But it appeared from the conversation that the new owner via Val and the new owner was present, or maybe on Zoom, it was hard for me to tell. It appears that they intend to keep all the barns, which
oh,
is really
good,
cool.
okay.
Which is one of the reasons why they need a variance.
Lot
Yeah.
coverage.
Yeah.
Lot coverage.
One of the barns is historic, they just gotta figure out which one.
And Tom White had some insight on
Yeah, he must be-
which barn.
Yeah,
I can tell you too.
I remember.
Which one?
Do you?
But you know.
It's just the one.
It's
into
like
the
when
right.
you look on the historic site, it says that in the barn in the back. It's so like, it
Yeah.
doesn't say which barn.
If you go behind the house and you go to the right a little bit, that's the barn. The other one's.
The one you
newer.
see.
Yeah.
Mom.
The one that used to be right beyond the house, I helped tear it down back in, God knows, the 70s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there had been a fire too, right?
No, and the next one
Oh, Tom
behind
thought there
that
was
was
a fire.
sold. It was a piece of junk and Michael Krakow bought it and moved it over to Wainscott. And then he got a bunch of old
Remember that.
beams and put in it to make it look like, I know the guy, and I was like. It was made out of scrap wood, but it was an old potato barn. You know, and they used like a city kid, it's an old potato barn.
Yeah,
And then he bought a bunch of old beams to make it look like it was
Yeah.
It sounds
actually old.
really familiar. Where did it go to?
Michael Krakow,
Right.
yeah.
What street
He's
did he move it
on
to?
town line, the east side of town line road, the first one in from the highway. Yeah,
Oh, yes, I saw.
yeah.
That's right.
So the left-hand part of it was one of Al Topping's old
That's
barns.
so funny. No, I
Yeah.
remember that house.
Yeah, he was an interesting guy.
So I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Can we talk about getting a cell phone tower and get one?
Can we
In
put
the
it on next
future?
week's agenda?
And can we talk about taking a bunch of no parking signs down? I went through Bridgehampton and a couple other villages, and they don't have any no parking signs up.
Well,
So-
you can't just take them down, they're part of your code. If your code says there's no parking, then the signs have to be there. So if you don't want the no parking there, then you gotta revise your code.
Okay, so maybe we'll look into revising the code so we can get rid of some of the parking signs,
Sure.
just to see how that works. And if
Yeah.
it doesn't work, then we'll revise the code again and get the parking signs and put the signs back up.
But you did that on Daniels Lane to take it away from the field, so all the signs were removed.
And then we put up speed bumps with 6 more signs.
That's true.
Oh, well,
And your cell tower, you know you already looked at one to put here.
I don't know that.
Okay.
I
have a
mean-
file on it if you'd like to see if they proposed to put it in here. If we're gonna do it, the village, we
Yeah.
need some place to put it.
Yeah.
And we don't, the only place that the village owns is this property.
Well,
So
what's wrong with this property?
it's not big enough.
not big enough.
Oh, how big does it have to be?
The
No.
proposal that we looked at
We looked at it once
encompassed
before.
encompassed the entire rear of the parking area.
Uh-huh.
Because they have to have the big batteries and stuff. I have the folder, I can dig it out for you. But they did propose it, and the tower went,
Yeah.
but it's not so much the tower, but the base that holds
Yeah.
it and what all
Well,
of that
how long ago
entails.
was this?
I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years
Maybe,
ago.
maybe they have new technology and the base is not as wide anymore. Maybe the Fosters
Perhaps.
can rent us in
They started,
perpetuity.
they started with
their
their
property.
property. This proposal was offered to the Fosters.
She's right, it
first
started with the
because
Fosters.
They have one of the highest
Elevation.
elevations, so that's where the company started. It was Verizon, one of them, that looked at it. And the Fosters.
Wait,
said
the
they-
Verizon came to, came to
There's
this?
companies
That's
that.
generally how you
solicit-
start.
Oh.
It's rare for the village to build a cell phone site, but the carriers will approach you. There are developers doing Crown Castle, Verizon, T-Mobile,
Verizon, I think that came.
independent.
And
people.
so Foster's didn't want it, so they said no, so then they came to us.
Is it a money-making scenario?
Very small. It's minimal money to the village. We did 2 of them in the village of Southampton. We did Village Hall, we did Cooper's Beach. Cooper's Beach, they actually installed in a cupola, which was actually very attractive. We built a cupola on the beach pavilion and put the equipment inside there. That was nice.
Well, how big is the cupola?
Good size, but not super tall, but it was, you know, like a proportional cupola to the
So
beach
you-
pavilion.
They
But
put
you
it on
needed-
their roof. is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, but they needed ground space for the other equipment, so that they run the wires to it, they need power and those kind of things. The room was about, the size of these first 3 rows, what they needed.
In the Village Hall one, all that's the equipment's in the back parking lot, right?
Correct, it's on a roof and the equipment's on the back. Yep.
So potentially you could do the roof is what you're kind of saying, but
Yeah.
we have to, they or whatever, the people who do these things, would pipe the equipment to the back of our lot.
Correct. If this is high enough, which I don't know if it will be.
Like,
They have all the engineering and they know it. They have the coverage maps, they know where they need it, and where they don't. Surprised,
can
if they
we
know
look
they have dead
into
spots,
that?
I'm shocked they haven't contacted us already.
So like I said, they did.
Yeah.
And the board denied it because it was just gonna take up too much space. So,
But this was 4 years ago.
You know what I'm thinking? It was before we put this extension on, wasn't it, Lisa?
It's more than 4 years
Yes, it was
ago.
more
So
than 4
maybe
years
things
ago.
have changed and it was Verizon.
Yes, yes.
Does that mean AT&T would be?
Can we
able
put
to
that on
address
the
it?
agenda and readdress
And
it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Don't they
so
rent
the
to another
carrier, if the
company?
carrier builds it, that it's only for that carrier. So if Verizon builds it, it's only for Verizon.
No way.
But if you get a Crown Castle who develops cell phone sites, they rent out space on the tower or in their equipment. to the
I don't think
carriers.
this guy was, again, let me pull the file up, because I don't remember. I believe it was not specific for a carrier, but for multiple. So I think it was like a broker or something.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Can we find out about all this stuff in another meeting? And go from there.
I mean, if it can go in a cupola and we're able to house the equipment without losing all the parking or something, let's look into it.
Sure.
I mean,
You have underground equipment.
if we can help our police do what they need to do, as well as help all of us who get very frustrated when we're trying to call somebody.
Do business.
Especially on weekends.
Oh
Yeah.
my God,
it's
the
hopeless.
phone, I can't.
We revert to the landline.
Yeah, thank God for that.
Yeah, I would never get rid of my landline.
Everybody's
Yeah.
got my,
I do know they put a booster down at Saginaw Beach. My
Oh,
daughter
yeah?
told me that, because now I'm thinking we should.
Who's they?
The town.
Oh.
Well, maybe we could get a bunch of boosters, so can we try to learn about this? Can it go on the agenda for next week and
I got
be a project that we work on?
Which one of the ways?
Parking.
Sure.
Boosting, maybe we just need a bunch of boosters on different locations around town. If they boosted Saginaw, I would love to know why we don't boost a couple other
That's
locations.
also what they're going to, too, the boxes hanging on the light poles.
Are you finished with your meeting?
Yeah,
Oh, we should,
let's make a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
All in favor?
All right.
Bye.
Okay.
You know when they